So, this problem looks deceptively simple, but it's got kind of a tricky part in the middle. So let's check it out and solve it together, right? So hopefully you drew your line as your first step. And then you probably noticed you've got this 5 hanging out here. And remember, it's not a minus 5. This negative belongs at the x. The sign is always in front. So since it's at the front, this is actually a plus 5. So that's the first kind of tricky part. And then you'll notice that this negative sign is hanging out here with the n, or with the x with our variable. Okay? So first we can get rid of that plus 5. We know how to get rid of a plus. We do the inverse, the opposite, and subtract. Opposite of adding 5 is subtracting 5. Do that both sides. So that's our first step. Right? Then we bring down what's left. We have 0 minus x. So don't have to care about that, about the 0, but we do need the minus x. It's equal to 7. Now you're kind of like, okay, well now what? Am I done? I mean, the x is by itself, but it's kind of not, because it's still got that negative sign in front. So to get rid of a negative sign, you can kind of think about it like this. If this side is negative, this is actually a negative 1x, right? Because there's always an invisible 1 in front of something we don't write. Like, we always have something like 1x. We just don't write it as 1x, we just write x, right? Because it's assumed if you write x, there's at least one of them, okay? So if you think about this as being multiplied by negative 1, how would we get rid of multiplication? Because if this is times a negative 1, we would get rid of it by dividing by negative 1, right? And if we do that to one side, we do that to the other side. Okay, so if you have just a negative, think of it as like being multiplied by a negative 1. To get rid of that negative, you divide, because 1 divided by 1 is itself, and then a negative divided by a negative changes it to a positive. So now I have 1 positive x, but I don't have to write the 1 in front. Equals, and then because we divided by a negative on this side, we have to do it to this side also. So anything divided by 1 is itself, so 7 divided by 1 is 7, and a positive divided by a negative is a negative. Okay? So basically what I did was I changed the sign. If this side is negative and I want it to change to a positive, I have to change the sign on this side too. It was positive, so I changed it to a negative. Think of it as dividing by negative 1.